obviously the two associations, as well as our partners at DNRC. So with that said, we've got some presenters that we'll go through and talk about today what some of the outlook for our wildland fire season is. We know it's kind of off to a slower start so far, but that's okay. For those that have been here for a while, we remember fire season really never really started, used to never start until later in July anyway. One thing I want to go into real quick is what is the role of the State Wildland Committee? Many years ago, the state chiefs and DNRC and the fire wardens formed up this committee to help work through issues that might be presenting themselves between us in the wildland fire season. We decided to do that early on and meet and try and work through any kind of those issues. And that's been a 20 plus year relationship now between the three organizations. And it really has worked out very well to help build that camaraderie and partnership between state and local government. So with that said, that's kind of our background. We've been doing this for the last couple of years. It's been really successful. And like I said, we want to thank everybody for taking the time to be with us. A couple little ground rules real quick. Try to keep your mics muted if at all possible. We will have a little bit of opportunity towards the end to maybe do some question and answer. If you want to jot some questions down in the chat, you can, but please wait till the end of the presentation to do anything with any questions, if at all possible. So with that said, we have Dan Borsum on with us today. And Dan is the meteorologist for the National Wildland Fire Service. And we will turn it over to Dan to give us his outlook on what lies ahead of us. So the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thanks, Rich, and appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Everybody was freaked out because we had no snow this winter. And the biggest thing that always is critical when it comes to fire season in the Northern Rockies is not the winter snow, not the snowpack. It's always the June precipitation. And we got that. Very end of the month, it waited for a while, and that certainly mitigate things. But we've got a forecast over the next few days that start to tilt the scales the other direction. So it really was that rainfall, 26th to the 30th. For some areas, it knocked them out of fire season probably for the rest of the year. I'm thinking that Front Range along US 2 through Glacier. In parts of Northwest Montana, it may not ever get to the point where fire season, even towards the breaks in the Missouri. It was a lot of moisture, 2 to 3 inches. It was sufficient enough rainfall-wise in North Idaho and Southwest Montana for me to lower the outlooks to normal. Northwest, north central Montana, it's now a below normal outlook. Having said that, this heat wave wasn't on the screen when I was putting out this outlook about 2 weeks ago, and it's showing up and it's pretty serious. Anytime I see something like 109 degrees over the plains, I know our fuels just aren't built for that. So this weekend takes some special consideration, and its lingering impacts is the biggest question. We do have this signature, though, where we typically get a really good strong surge in monsoon and we mellow things out. So it may be a tight window of very active fire activity. So that's what the June precipitation anomaly looked like. June is our wet season month, so getting good moisture during June makes a huge difference. And certainly you can see for parts of Northwest Montana, through North Central Montana, across Northern North Dakota, it was really a good wet season. Even parts of Southeast Montana did okay. That strip, say, from Harleton down towards Big Timber and then continuing on towards Red Lodge has been a struggle bus for a while. And that western part of like the Kootenai is also an anomaly compared to the rest of the northwest part of the state. Temperature-wise, though, all that moisture we received was supported by a really cool June as well. So not only did we have the precipitation event, but we lacked the fuel stress that we normally would have seen starting to develop in June. And that really covered almost the entire state of Montana. So we didn't have anything that pushed us hard in June towards fire season. Now, the drought monitor does carry some areas of drought that are a pretty substantial multi-year drought at this point, particularly on the Montana-Dakota border, and then into the southern part of southwest Montana. And that little spot kind of south of Harleton, north of Big Timber, that's the other spot I've been watching, just because I think our fire problems going forward over the next couple of weeks are going to be pockets that are really much, much more receptive, and the broader area is still trying to cure the fuels. This is the soil moisture pattern, and this is a combination of a couple of things. The recent event, also some of the moisture it received last fall. I think of this in terms of how the live species are going to respond to the heat. You know, your junipers and things like that. Are they going to try and burn, or are they going to try and be resistant? And again, that area west of Billings, east of Livingston, that's one of the driest spots. But north central Montana, Great Falls, Cut Bank, over towards Havre, looks really, really good. And that's also a little bit hard to believe, but even towards Dillon and over the Flathead Valley look a little bit better as well. Now, having said all that, how does it manifest itself? Let's take a look at a few of the cameras. McDonald Pass right now. Clearly, we're not seeing receptiveness in a fuel bed that looks this green. This is south of the Red Lodge. A little hard to tell because the storm was there today, but there's a tinge of brown in those fuels. Again, that's in that drier belt I've been depicting. This is Home Creek divide between Ashland and Broadus. That is not receptive, which is really interesting given the heat wave this weekend. Menida Pass down south on I-15 heading into Idaho. Again, that doesn't look like it's all that troublesome considering all the concerns we had. And then this is up along the Front Range US 2 by 2 Medicine. Again, this is an area where I just don't see the fuels turning anytime soon. So when we put out the July outlook, it was above normal, particularly for the western half of the GA. This heat wave, I think, is not something they had forecasted real well. Precipitation outlook was actually near normal. This is the messaging we're doing on the heat wave this weekend. And I'll just say that when it came to 2021, we weren't overly concerned. And then we had a couple of days of heat, and the word that the meteorologist at the time who worked in my position used the word eviscerated, right? So we have species, we have spots like south-facing aspects. I think of a car on the interstate hitting a dry spot between, say, around Columbus, and that south aspect gets a receptive spark. And that will probably go on Saturday, but absolutely will go on Sunday. Will it go over onto the north aspect and things like that? I'm not that concerned about things being romping across the landscape. I really think the firefighters will have a good chance to find their targets of opportunity in the wildland environment where there is some heat sinks out there. I also do worry, though, substantially about their work capacity on Sunday. We are looking at an all-time record time for high for Billings, for example, of 109. Further east, Miles City, same thing. You get into the western half of the state, it's not as hot, but it's going to be breezier. They're going to be mixing down some winds. So this is a no joke weekend. If you got some chance to staff an extra engine or two, that might not be a bad idea. We continue to see the signature that the monsoon will try and get active later in June into July or into July into August. So I'm not expecting this to be a never ending fire season. I think we definitely pick up activity over the next couple of weeks. But a lot of times when we get these heat waves, we get really good monsoon pushes. Further ahead, there's a El Nino out there. El Ninos are a dry winter signature for a lot of the western part of the country. So it would not be unreasonable to believe that after the August weather, we start to see some fire concerns show up back in September and August. Another thing is it actually brings an opportunity for some prescribed fire in the fall. When it comes to the El Nino, the number one correlation in the Northern Rockies regarding El Nino is the spring fire season the following year. So I think about how difficult we were with our January, February, March of the past year. I think the fuels might be there. However, El Nino is not associated with as windy conditions as La Nina was, which was this past winter. So hopefully we catch a break on the wind. This is the significant wildland fire potential outlook. Everything across Montana is normal except for that northern tier of the northwest corner of the state where I've got below normal depicted. They are expecting big seasons in the Great Basin. They're expecting it in the Rocky Mountain area, particularly on the west slope where we've seen it unfold, and the Pacific Northwest. But those areas had much, much drier winter. As dry as our winter was, theirs was far worse. So my last thing is, I think this green up we've got out there is going to try and stick around. It may even survive the heat to an extent. I do think there will be spots that become hazardous, but just be aware that during the day on Sunday, really strong sun angles, temperatures of 109, all bets are off on fire predictability, but that's just a window. After that, I think we are hot and we're still mostly dry. Humidity comes up a little bit. So we'll have fire problems. But Sunday's the day that's really unique in terms of the possibility to fire to be really active. And then I just don't have a great picture of what's going to happen the rest of the month because this heat wave is trying to last for a while, and we'll see how long it lasts and how much moisture we get. So if you reach out or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, Dan, for taking the time to be
in regards to DNRC and what we've got lined up for the upcoming summer. So again, Corey Callan, I'm the Deputy Chief for the DNRC Fire Protection Bureau. Okay, just to start, I think everybody's probably aware of kind of the national picture, but I think it's important to kind of start zoomed out just a bit and understand what's going on across the country. Nationally, we elevated up to preparedness level 4 last week, and that's really based on the fire activity we're seeing in the Great Basin and Rocky Mountain geographic area. I took this screenshot just this morning from SA Montana just to capture both extended attack and initial attack activity going on. And you can see that most of the western US is pretty wet and anticipated to stay busy for the forthcoming period. As you saw in Dan's outlooks, both the Great Basin and Pacific Northwest are anticipated to stay in above normal activity through at least August before returning normal. And as we know here in Montana and the Northern Rockies, especially with perhaps a delayed start to fire season, that'll continue to be a strain on resource availability through late summer. So something just to kind of keep an eye on as we work through this here the next month or so. Here in Montana, we had a pretty active, kind of winter and spring fire season. Things have quieted with the recent precipitation in late May and June now, and kind of look to be on a normal fire season starting track here. But we are tracking about 26,000 acres burned year to date and 855 fires. And you can see where we were at this point last year, more fires at this point last year, but far less acres. And we've accumulated most of those acres again in kind of February, March, and April in certain spots of Montana, and really kind of coupled with high wind events. So some of the incidents of note we kicked off in February with Raider Creek up in Muscle County there, the March fire east side down toward Red Lodge, Jericho Creek up on Mac Pass there, Bradshaw down in Powder River County again, the Anacline fire out in Webo, and then just last week both the Deer Hollow in Ravalli County and then the Lost Cabin fire down in Carbon County. So it's been active, and initial attack activity has been pretty steady here this past week. So for the upcoming year, just kind of a reminder, DNRC's mission is protecting lives, property, and natural resources from fire. We partner with all the counties in Montana to deliver fire protection on 60 million acres of state, federal, and private land. We really are focused on that land that is privately owned and emphasize protection of communities' homes and critical infrastructure. And we do that by, implementing an aggressive initial attack strategy, and understand that that helps us reduce firefighter risk and be successful at the work that we do. Staffing wise, for the year, we've been staffed up for about 2 months at this point. Most of our seasonal crews came on in early May and have completed all their required training. We've got about 50 engines staffed across Montana from west to east. Those engines have been, with the weather we have seen, we've mobilized some engines out of the geographic area to support other areas of critical fire activity in the country. We are, some of those folks are cycling out, and we will be keeping those back here in the state. Plan to staff our 5 MT-205 helicopters, and I'll talk a little bit more about those here in a minute. As well as 3 enhanced detection fixed wing aircraft and our air attack platform. And I'll talk a little bit more about these resources here in just a sec. So we're headed into the fourth year, our fourth fire season with what we refer to as increased preparedness resources. And so actually starting last week, most of our increased preparedness resources for the 2026 fire season came on contract last week and have been engaged in firefighting activities
Eric's
across.
office, Jason.
So,
Hi, Ecker.
JJ just got a mute there. All right. That includes 2 Type 1 tanked helicopters provided by Billings Flying Service. That's 2 Alpha Juliet and 4 Alpha Juliet. Those ships are staffed and have been flying fire every day pretty much for the last week. Currently in Billings, we've had them out toward Miles City, down on the Northern Cheyenne. They did support Idaho for a week earlier in June, but those ships are out and available and have been helpful in some of the initial attack activity we've seen out on the eastern, southeastern side of the state. We also have 2 Type 2 initial attack hand crews, the gold and silver crews. Those are provided by the Rocky Mountain Fire Company out of Missoula. The gold crew, I believe, is still assigned out in Miles City. And the silver crew is on pre-position in Helena after coming off of fire there over the weekend. Those crews have also been super helpful and have been engaged in fire here the last couple days. And we'll have all these resources will be on contract through the end of September, so we'll have them for a few months yet. We also have the nighttime detection and mapping platform, 220 Quebec Kilo, provided by Bridger Aerospace. That aircraft flies at night and helps us detect new ignitions, as well as map ongoing and existing fires, kind of in a incident awareness and intelligent platform. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here toward the end. And then, of course, as needed through the course of the summer, we have the ability to add other assets through tools, whether it's the Northwest Compact and our partners in Canada and Western U.S. states, other state-to-state agreements, or other contract assets, including single engine air tankers, large air tankers, air attack, and additional crews or engines. Couple things I just want to highlight just for awareness. We've been working through the last several years, our MT-205 fleet, our 5 Huey helicopters, working through some modernization and upgrades to that platform to keep those a viable and effective resource into the forthcoming future. And I'm excited to announce we've got 95 Mike, which is typically our ship that's stationed out in Billings, all the way through our phase 2 modernization and upgrades there. And through the next 12 months, we'll continue to finalize some upgrades to the rest of the fleet with the goal of having all 5 platforms fully upgraded by next summer. That modernization really, it's an enhanced 212 rotor blade system and some associated components. Includes an extended range fuel tank, allowing that helicopter to depart from our maintenance facility in Helena, and make it all the way out to Miles City and still have a little bit of tank or gas in the tank to do some firefighting work out there without having to wait for a fuel truck. And some other performance updates, comms equipment and other components. So we're super excited about that and continue to work on that over the upcoming year, and just want to highlight that for folks as we continue to work through that process. I think the other piece of equipment that we're super excited to have put into place last week is our DNRC AirTag platform 5.3 mic. 5.3 mic was staffed and available as of July 1 last week and has already flown several fire missions across Montana. This is a state-owned AirTag platform with the intent of providing year-round baseline aviation asset to state and federal and local government partners. Definitely increasing our capability, allows us to maintain an asset that we command and control in the state of Montana, and provide that air tactical group supervision that's really useful for us in our initial attack mission. We are hoping and on track to have that aircraft through the cooperator letter approval process around the first part of August. Right now, it's really just available for state and local incidents, unless there's a matter of life safety. But we'll get that through the federal cooperator letter status, and hopefully be able to make that available to all our interagency partners. So. That's staffed by two DNRC air tactical group supervisors, many of which, or who of which many of you may know, Randy Ocon and then Hans Schlaffer. Both of those folks we're excited to have on board and leading our air attack program. The other component I want to highlight, we did purchase three new Cessna 206 aircraft, replacing our 1950s era Cessna 180 detection aircraft that typically had been field positioned in Missoula, Kalispell, and Helena. These new platforms are all equipped with a TK8 multispectral imaging camera for detection mapping and real-time intel that uses the Overwatch software for that. And I'll show some products of what those aircraft can produce. So three airframes there, 6.1, 6.2, and 9.1 mic that'll be field positioned across the state with this new enhanced detection capability. They can fly detection missions, as we always have with just eyes in the sky. But with adding this sensor, we have a increased capability to do several types of imagery and mapping missions out there. So look forward to seeing those aircraft out and available. If there is a need, just one thing to highlight, if there is a need for these aircraft, to just continue to work through normal ordering channels and processes, working through from the fire department to the county fire warden, from the county fire warden to the DNRC land office to request those assets. And we'll get that into our planning process and work on seeing if we can meet and fulfill individual missions. So just kind of a quick peek at some of what those sensors on these aircraft are capable of, both our nighttime contracted detection through Bridger Aerospace and then the enhanced detection aircraft. This is just some examples that we flew last summer. That picture in the middle of the screen is kind of hard to see, but that's a hotspot, about 2 foot by 3 feet that this aircraft was able to detect at elevation. Map and then provide that lat long into firefighters to hike into and extinguish before that fire caused any bigger problems. So we continue to grow and learn this equipment's capability. With now all three airframes. Last summer we only had really one airframe with the camera. We'll have the three 206s plus the nighttime detection with that capability. Looking forward to continuing to grow this capability across the state and do a better job of mapping and detection. Here's just an example of some of the fire perimeters that were mapped last year across the state and some intel that we were able to provide there. These are all these products are pretty rapidly available once flown, through capabilities in Starlink and other digital file transfer services. We can move this information pretty quick. A lot of it is available in SA Montana that we can set up some time and show folks how to view and observe some of that. But again, just demonstrating some of the capability here of that enhanced detection and mapping aircraft that we brought online here this past month. Real quick, this is just the Bradshaw fire from Powder River County from earlier in the year, and these are just that multispectral camera takes three or has several different wavelengths and pictures it's taking. Um, the middle picture there being just red, green, blue, just typical aerial imagery. The left being long range or short range infrared, and the right there being I'm going to get this wrong, a different camera sensor, but just showing the contrast and capability that this aircraft has in the imagery that we're able to get and the detection. Taking that one step further, here's an example of a coal seam we were able to map in the footprint of a fire from last year. To the naked eye, nothing really visible, no smoke, no heat, nothing visible. We were able to fly that at elevation and pick up some heat there and discern that and be able to move some resources around and notify folks of that potential ignition site and source there. Just as another example, we did fly this aircraft and these capabilities in in December of the year when Lincoln County was experiencing some of the flooding and wind events up there. And again, another useful tool for this and resource beyond wildfire response and capability that we have there. So again, just want to highlight that for folks and some of the work that we're doing out there and capabilities we're bringing to the citizens of Montana for the upcoming fire season. That's kind of the end of my operational update here. I'll hold for questions at the end, but just want to highlight and end on the note of we really appreciate the cooperation and the coordination we have and the partnership we have with local government fire departments, emergency managers, our state and federal partners across the state. The work that we do here in Montana is super important and successful because of the relationships we have and the coordination and cooperation that we do. So just a charge and an ask everybody to keep that up. And please reach out if there's questions or comments and look forward to seeing folks out on the line. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate that update and got some exciting new stuff there that is at our disposal, and that'll be well received and put into good use, no doubt. Next, we'll invite Lindsay Green with DNRC, and she will visit with us about all the new exciting stuff we have in the fire business world. So take it away, Lindsay.
Thank you, Rich. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Green. I'm the Fire Finance and Incident Business Supervisor for the Montana DNRC. And I'm going to talk about, let me find my right page here. There we go. Just a second. Technical difficulties. Okay. Everybody see my screen? It's a one-pager.
Gotcha, Lindsay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what is FBS? FBS is the Fire Business System. And why are we doing it? Montana DNRC is taking proactive steps to modernize our business workflows through the electronic platform called FBS. We're hoping that this increases our efficiencies in payment and accuracies in payment, as well as providing some transparency between DNRC and the local government fire forces. DNRC has contracted with the software company called Gold Systems. Montana's the 9th Western state to adopt FBS, so it's a very well-tested, highly utilized system. And we will use it to create and track the IRA process, manage fire payments, and then we'll also kind of outside the IRA process, track fire expenditures on the back end. Eventually, we will use it to interface with our partners, our federal partners in the cross-billing invoice process, as well as processing emergency firefighter time entry. So lots of good things coming up. Current state we are in, we're focusing on getting the agreement information correct on the IRAs, including equipment and personnel. Once the IRAs are correct, we'll transition payments into the system. We're not quite there yet. I want to make sure all the information on the IRAs is correct before we get payments in the system, but communication will be clear about when we make that transition. One thing to note for the option 3 departments, the cooperative fire support agreement will be a paper copy still, and it will be uploaded into the system as an attachment. Currently in the system is the IRA, the chief cert, and then the personnel billing rate form for those option 3 departments. Future will incorporate as part of the IRA, but we're not quite there yet this year. There is a public site for the IRAs and agreements, and a link can be found on the DNRC Fire Business website, so you can access that as the local government partners, as well as Dispatch has access to all those agreements on our Fire Business website. I've developed an agreement and billing cooperator guide. It's just a PowerPoint slide set to use as a job aid for you to navigate the system. Anybody who has access to the system, I have shared that out, but please reach out if you need access to that or if you'd like a copy. Right now, I'm keeping it on my SharePoint so that I can continuously update it as the development continues. If you need access to the system, please work with your local DNRC area unit, FMO, or office manager, and they can work with me to get you into the system. Just to note that FBS is housed on the state of Montana application platform called Okta. That's OKTA. So you will need an Okta account to access FBS. It's really easy to do. I've gotten many people into the system and troubleshooted a bunch of issues that people have had. And we've had a 100% success rate. Everybody's getting in the system and getting their work done. If you need help or if you need support or have questions, the dnrcfbs@mt.gov is a good email, or you can reach out to, like I said, your local area or unit FMO or office manager. And that's the end of my report, but I'm happy to take questions at the end if anybody has any. Oh, you're on mute, Rich.
Sorry, missed the button before I got it. Thanks, Lindsay. Appreciate it. Dave Hamilton, he'll be up next to talk to us about statewide critical mission task forces and other things related to the rural cooperative programs. You're up, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Again, my name is David Hamilton. I'm the Montana DNRC County Co-op Program Manager. I just want to just very quickly go over what last year was referred to as the local government critical mission task force. We've actually changed the name to just state critical mission task force, as a lot of times we will end up with a mix of different types and agencies or resources on that. Really, it is just a stop, fill gap for an incident that is having a bad day, and they need a increase of surge resources, mostly based around structure protection, and we can't wait on the local system to get those resources in to make that happen. It does not replace local mutual aid agreements or statewide mutual aid or any of that. And it does come when we mob these kinds of task forces, we usually put them underneath a pay status. We try to do a 24-hour kind of lead time on that. And yeah, they have a certain mission. They're not going to stage. If we're using one of these, they have a mission to do when they get to the incident. They go right to work when they get there. They check in and go to work, and then when they're done, they're released back home. The one key piece that I want to reiterate is the fact that They're mobbed as a task force, and they're also demobbed as a task force and returned to their home units. And if there is a single resource on that task force, they have to return home before they can get a resource order to that incident through the proper dispatch processes that are in place. And there's more information about all of that. It actually starts on page 27 of the umbrella document. And this is just kind of an example. We get a call through the DNRC. It's usually comes to our statewide Fire Protection Bureau duty officer, that somebody's needing some help. We put that call out to the local offices and they reach out to try and find those resources. Typically could be up to a 72-hour ask, and we ask that those task forces come self-sufficient so they have the ability to take care of themselves. Obviously, we will do what we can to support them on an incident as well. We did actually utilize one. We mobilized one last year for the Windy Rock. Had a pretty good fire front that pushed down into a subdivision, imminent threat to structures, and we pushed that call out and we were able to mobilize two different task forces to come in. And they were there for about 24. Some of them were there for just about 36 hours over the course of the Windy Rock fire. Again, just reiterating, this is not a replacement to mutual aid from neighboring jurisdictions, including Montana Mutual Aid. It is all generally approved and ordered and coordinated through us as the DNRC, and it does not provide into the national mobilization system. They remain under the control of the DNRC or local control. And again, they'll be mobbed as a task force and cannot be divided up or reassigned. If you're interested in partaking in one of those critical mission task forces throughout the course of the summer, my advice would be to reach out to your local DNRC office and just let them know. Generally, those requests are very quick, and they go to fire departments or counties that already are signed up through the FBS system that Lindsay was referring to, as we move through that. And then I want to make it very clear that, this does not replace any other MOB that's out there. If resources are available and want to get assigned to an incident, they still need to return back home and go through the normal ordering processes to get that done. All of the pay documents and everything all stay with the task force. They take those back home to their home units and they all get processed through there. There's no time gathered at an incident or any of that stuff. There's generally a check-in process. They get their assignment, they go do what they need to do. They take care of their paperwork internally, tracking time and all of that. And then when they get home, they turn all their paperwork in and go through the process piece. So I thought it would be important for us to just kind of run through that as an update and make sure that everybody was pretty clear on that. And like Corey and Lindsay, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those here at the end. And that's all I got, Rich. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dave. So keep in mind, I think now's a good time to mention, right, that Montana Mutual Aid is still on the books. It's still out there. And what we remember from Montana Mutual Aid is that's neighbors helping neighbors when the call comes in. Different setup and scenario than what Dave mentioned, and different organizational abilities in that, and typically without an expectation of pay. So keep in mind that as we go through times of need, there might be calls for us to help our neighbors, which would be that through that mutual aid system. And there's going to be other times where we're called as well. But that's going to be a direct official request from DNRC that puts us in a different category and status for a period of time, as Dave mentioned. With that, Montana Mutual Aid, I believe the Blue Book is, or the Mutual Aid Guidebook has been updated recently with some new contacts. And I was asked to pass along that there will be another meeting this fall in which some more work will be done on that document as we have known it for many years. So with that said, I think that's kind of, we planned this for right about an hour. So we've kind of used up most of that time. I see Randy just put a comment in there that if there are air attack questions, please contact him. That number's in the chat. At this point in time, we can open it up for anybody else online that's with us online to see if there's any other questions that we can come up with some answers for you. We'll give it the 7 seconds of awkward silence. And I believe we did record this. So with folks, we tried to compromise on some of the time frames between when people would be working and when they'd be off. But with the recording ability, people can still watch this at a refresher meeting or their department meeting and whatnot, and kind of go from there. So I think in respect to everybody's time, Lindsay's posted your
Rich Freeze.
Yes, Rich froze.
Time's up.
All right, everybody. Thanks for attending. I think we'll
All right,
wrap it
thank
up
you.
there.
Thanks for putting this on. Thanks.
See you guys.
Thank you.